Welcome back to the HubScale podcast, the podcast where we dive into the minds of security leaders all around the world. This week, we have a very special guest. We've got Mike Conley. Mike is the CRO of BlueVoyant, one of the fastest growing security companies over the past 24 months, one of the leaders in the NDR space. Mike, great to have you on.
Thanks, Elliot. Real pleasure. Happy to be here.
Yeah, no problem. And Mike, just for the listeners who don't know who you are, it'd be brilliant to have an introduction into yourself and your background.
Sure. I have been in the cybersecurity industry and in IT for a long time, since the late 90s. And, my career started out at a place called Forsyth Technology. We ran around. I was a sales rep. You ran around the country, and we would chase everybody that bought an IBM mainframe or an IBM AS400, and I would sell operating leases. FASB 13 off-balance sheet operating leases. I competed with IBM Credit Corp and GE Capital and Comdisco. And you went in there and you had to have the ability to sell the fact that, look, I will write a lease based on the cost of the mainframe or the AS400 or the back then we called it the DASD, the storage disk that you just bought. Give it to me. I'm going to put equity into it over 3 years. I always put enough equity, usually like 13 points, to make it an operating lease. So the customer could write the lease and pay enough each month so that they could make it an expense. They could treat it in their business like a light bill. And so it was a great business. We built a huge portfolio. And eventually what happened is, as the world went to distributed systems, they came and said, hey, listen, the big guys, Sun, HP, Scott McNeely back in the day said, listen, you guys own all these contracts on all these mainframes. We're moving them to distributed systems. Why don't you guys start reselling our equipment? So we did. And the beautiful part about it was we owned the existing contract, and we were then able to bring in different technology, resell all those Sun UE10s or the HP Linux systems, the M's, the N's, the L's. And we were able to lease them to customers at a lower cost because suddenly we were the supplier. And that evolved us getting into, obviously, consulting. We would sell consulting 5 days. We called it quick results. Guy would show up, unbox this massive HP, M-class Linux machine and or Unix machine, I'm sorry, and get it environmentalized, get it all set up, and then he'd leave. And then that customer would start start implementing it. So the business took off like a hockey stick. And eventually, we shifted into cyber as a big piece of our business was we had an executive. This is a great lesson. We had an executive offsite client, a CAB, a customer advisory board. And one of my customers from back then, a client named Johnson Controls out of Milwaukee. He said, you know what? Here's a problem we have, Conley. If you guys, you do so much good work for us, we keep getting stuff that we design in our batteries and in our car parts showing up on cars on Toyota. And we know we designed it. And we're like, how the heck did it go over there? We need someone to start securing our stuff. This is 2005. We dove into security, and we just kept growing it and growing it and growing it and growing it. It kept becoming this bigger and bigger and bigger issue. So I started a managed services business inside of the firm. That started to take off. Customers said, we don't know what we're doing. Come in here and start managing this stuff. And we always took the attitude of which I've lived by in security for a long time, which is this. If you can't see it, you can't secure it. If you can't measure it, you can't improve it. So to me, the evolution of where I've come from has been the grassroots understanding of old technology, now through cloud technology, through hybrid cloud, now through the applications of AI. And what does this mean for security? I say to everybody, the analogy is simple. In the old world, our clients had a warehouse, and in the middle of the warehouse was their gold. And there were 2 doors that people could come in and out of. They put SEAL Team 6 at each door, and they were secure. Today, they have 10,000 doors. They can't afford to put SEAL Team 6 at each door, so they must make the gold intelligent enough and have partners intelligent enough to know what doors they can use, how they can use them, and how do they stay ahead of the bad guy coming in. It's a shift. But that's a lot of where I come from, and it's been great.
Yeah. No, you got an amazing background. I guess ever since you came into the industry in 1993, obviously you've progressed amazingly through your career. Obviously landed the CRO role within BlueVoyant in November 2022. We could talk for hours, Mike, in terms of your background, stories, different topics, etc. I think the conversation today, we're looking to of course, for the security listeners, talk a little bit about BlueVoyant, the mission, what it is that the business is doing that's so special and that's causing the growth and the success that you're having on a global scale at the moment. Diving a little bit into that artificial intelligence topic and piece as well, because I know that's such an area that BlueVoyant is leveraging quite successfully at the moment. And then going through a little bit into sales. I think we mentioned that we wanted to talk a little bit about the differences from a sales standpoint of business value versus great technology, and I guess how founders and sellers can kind of really overcome that hurdle. And then, as we mentioned, BlueVoyant, fast growing business. How does a business transition from a startup to upstart, and what are the operational things that need to happen to a company? And
That's a
um,
great question. Great question,
mm,
Elliot. Question. So, when you look at the phases of a business, you have startup, then you move to upstart, right? With the goal grabbing, as they say, get 18% more of the market share, and gravity starts taking you up, right? There's some people that say it's a bunch of garbage, but I'll tell you what a lot of companies struggle with and what we've done really well to go from startup to upstart. Most times when companies get started, it is started by engineers. They come up with a great technology, they come up with a great solution, they fall madly in love with it, and they think it's just going to sell itself. I remind people all the time, there have been, in terms of technology, there have been so many spectacular solutions that have died inside the bag, right? Because they never thought in a million years, they thought this sales part was just this easy thing that had to happen. And, oh, just go get some guys. Our tech is so good. They fall in love with their own soup. So I always say the trouble startups have is in times when you can get a lot of money and you can get a lot of funding, people solve problems with people. They got a lot of money. Here's a problem. Go hire some people. That is not healthy. When you don't have a lot of money, you say, I'm going to have to solve this problem with technology, with better process, with better discipline. I'm going to force to look at how I do things, because if you're building for today, you fail. You need to build for tomorrow. The cheese is moving in security in a massive way. So BlueVoyant did a great job of starting up as a business. Our mission has always been illuminate, validate, remediate risk, right? Measure it, show it, remediate it. Make sure customers understand they are buying a result with the BlueVoyant platform, right? So for us, it has been a very successful journey because we have been militant about the fact that we are always automating before hiring. We are always looking at through the problem through the eyes or from the eyes of our clients. We're not looking at it from what we built. We're looking at it and innovating from what they say. And because we're from the cloud and because we have that mission of illuminate, validate, remediate, gives us the ability to move very, very quickly and very, very efficiently. We always want to be that place and have been very successful at looking inside ourselves and saying, are we easy to do business with? I'll tell you, Elliot, I've been doing cyber for a long time, and you may not always have the best tech, but if you take care of your customers better than anybody, and you give them great customer service better than anybody, and you make it an incredible experience better than anybody, they will keep doing business with you. If you have the greatest tech and crap customer service and no humility, nothing but arrogance, because you just think you're the best, that's the way it is, customers will find a way to throw you out and not do business with you. So BlueVoyant has done a great job of understanding and being humble and saying, look, we built great tech, but we are going to saturate our customers with great client service, great measurement, because we realize in security, everything that we sell them, whoever we're talking to, chances are they have to go somewhere and sell it up. I've always said in security, the scary part CISOs have today is that they have to marry the language of IT to the language of finance. And that is not something most IT people are very comfortable with. They really don't like it. Why? Because the CFO says, spending a lot of money with you, nothing's happened here. I'm not sure I understand the value. Tell me, measure me. Why I gave you this money. What am I getting for it? And they sit there and say, well, we're doing these great things. We're secured. Nothing's happened. It's fantastic. And the CFO kind of goes, yeah, I probably could spend less with you because nothing's happening. Obviously, we may be overspending, or we may not be using this the right way. And typically IT people struggle with that language of finance that the CFO wants to hear. We pride ourselves in that our measurement, right, of what we do around risk makes our clients very comfortable with investing with BlueVoyant. I don't say buying, I say investing with BlueVoyant, because they're not buying something just for today. They trust us to keep evolving to make sure that they are secure. And helping them measure that monetary investment with the risk that it's carrying and helping them, making CFOs and others understand why they do business with us. And that has been fantastic. It's shown in our rules. It's shown in our upsell, cross-sell. It's shown in how we develop our solutions, because I always say, God gave you 2 ears, 2 eyes, and 1 mouth. That means you look and listen twice as much as you speak. If you listen to customers, they will tell you where they need the innovation. If you get arrogant, boy, oh boy, you can invest a lot of ways and go the wrong way. We pride ourselves that we don't do that. We're very shrewd. We're very careful. But the customer is the one that's dictating our journey.
Yeah, yeah. It's really interesting. It seems to be a trending theme, really, especially across that the enterprise segment from a security standpoint. When I'm working with CROs, whether that's to bring in like senior pre-sales people or whether it's sellers, they always say to me, Elliot, I want someone who's going to sell outcomes, not solutions.
That's right.
It's a topic that seems to be covered quite a lot. Exactly as you've mentioned there, especially because from a founder standpoint as well, you can have the best tech and it can be the best thing in the world, but the CFOs and they don't care about the best tech. They want the best business solution. They want to save the money in their back pocket. They want
That's exactly right. And so
above.
think about it. You sit there and these startups or even the big guys go in and they sell their friend who's the guy who's in charge of all pick something. He's in charge of cyber. One guy's in charge of storage. One guy's in charge of cloud. However you want to look at it. But they're forgetting the fact that all they really care about is solve my problem. Right? I need a great cake. I don't give a damn about the ingredients. The ingredients is you. You're the partner. You solve for that. I buy the outcome. I buy the result. This is why you see places like us doing so well, because we say to customers, we're going to illuminate, validate, and remediate your risk. That's what we're going to do, right? We're going to give you a result. If you want us to do the remediation and work with you and push that all the way through, we'll do that, right? So people love that aspect. And when they can understand it and it's simple, and they can measure it, and they can say, I can look at you and now see my security health check. That's why we bought Conquest, right? We now have the ultimate front end and the ultimate back end, and a very simple way for clients to interact with us, look at what we're going to be calling armed ATK, which is going to be the front end of BlueVoyant, and go, holy cow, here's my whole health check. Here's my gaps. Here's what I got to get done. This is something I got to get closed. Click the button, right? Measurement. We can always improve that which we can measure. Measurement. Obviously to their PC, obviously to their phone, they can start measuring their security profile on a daily basis, the risk, should they invest, what's going on, being proactive, right? And they get that result. It's been amazingly successful, and it's very refreshing. Think about what they used to do. Buy a ton of point products, one for email, one for endpoint over here, and and IR. We could go on forever about all the endpoint products. I'm not going to mention names. Great companies. But what does a customer have to do? Oh, now I need my email guys, and I need my, DNS guys, and I need my, go down the list. I need incident response guys, and they have to have all these teams. Hopefully all those teams coordinate. Hopefully all those tools are working together, because the CFO is going, hey, I'm spending a lot of money with you. Are we secure? I think so. Well, then why did Accenture come in here with a red team and tell us we're just, we got holes all over the place, right? It's a no-win. It's a no-win situation. So we're changing the game in a drastic way. Measurement, visibility. Here's my gaps. Here's why I invest. Gap closed. Proceed forward. It's very refreshing for them.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's awesome, and I think the exciting thing as well is obviously, hopefully the macroeconomic climate can be shifted in a positive light over the next 12 months, and the growth that BlueVoyant have already seen within the market. Add that to the macroeconomic conditions, and the business could absolutely skyrocket over the next couple of years. Which I can see the smile in your face, like you can picture it in your head. I can tell. I think obviously the business has grown. Like you said, we're going from that transition from startup to upstart now. Roughly around 600 employees, give or take, at the moment on a global scale. Not just for BlueVoyant, but as a business in general, that's at that inflection point of an organization. What do you think, Mike, are the key things that an organization needs to get right now, from where BlueVoyant are to where they want to be as a business over the next 2 years?
Yeah. So it's really important, in my opinion, that if you are looking as BlueVoyant is, it's no secret. There have been, a lot of people are romancing us to go public, right? We've had a lot of interest from the different exchanges, and everyone's saying, "What are you going to do? You guys are a very, very hot tech." And keep in mind, in my business, it's not just annual recurring revenue I'm chasing. I want to build big backlog, right? Revenue under contract. And our backlog has grown tremendously. So revenue under contract is incredibly appealing because when I'm sitting on the beach going to sleep, revenue is coming in, right? The platform is performing for our clients and growing. So you develop this big cash engine, right? And that's very attractive, right? People love that. So when you're looking at that stage, and we certainly are developing down that path, it is very, very important that you start making sure your disciplines are in place. I am a big proponent that whether someone buys you, whether you go public, no matter what it is, those disciplines should be put in place day one. What does that mean? When we at BlueVoyant talk about things like ARR, it is clean ARR. It is true annual recurring revenue. There's no one-time PS or soft costs in these numbers. You clean all that stuff out. It is clean numbers, because I've been through this many times. Keep in mind, Foresight was sold to Kelso, then to CD&R, and then it was Sirius, and then CDW came in and bought the whole thing, right? You got to run a clean book, strong disciplines around your financials. I've seen this. There's nothing worse than somebody who gives you a book and their financials in there look like they're the next coming of the good Lord, and then you dig in and find out this is all garbage. Right away, it throws the question mark of integrity inside everything, right? So when you're going through this process, you got to ensure you have a very clean book. You are doing processes and accounting the way it should be done. You have to respect things like 606. You get to see revenue once the service is performed, right? So there's a lot of things between the marriage of how you sell and your contracts and what they have to look like. What does it mean to be put in a backlog? Well, it means that you have a contract that cannot be canceled unless the platform blows up. If a customer wants to cancel for convenience, that contract does not go into the backlog because they can cancel for convenience. You can't put it in there. There are different disciplines on that financial and sales side that you have to start putting in place. What's good for the firm should be good for the seller. These things must match. And then the other thing I would tell you in different aspects of the business, everybody always has to look internally and look if they're part of the org, whether it be marketing, customer success, engineering, product management. Are we designing for tomorrow? Are we looking at how we improve our customer and client experience tomorrow? We know we're doing it good today, but that backlog is massive. Because when I look at it, I go, it's massive. That's in the end zone. But now I have to upsell, cross-sell. And if we're not doing that extreme customer service, they will find a way not to renew. If we're doing that customer service, man alive, even if the platform messed up a little bit, great selling buys forgiveness. And that customer will say, hey, listen, you guys are phenomenal. Don't worry about it. Get it fixed. And let's talk about what you're going to do in third party for me, because I have a big, supply chain defense issue here. Yeah. So when you're trying to make these transitions, you cannot forget those disciplines. They're critical. And by the way, customers who are so happy with the way you treat them will find a way to do business with you. It is amazing. We have clients that come to us saying, I really need you guys to do XYZ for us. And I remind the whole sales force and the marketing team and the CSMs, I have responsibility for all these things. I remind them, no is a powerful word. When you say no to a customer, because it's not something you do in an A+ format, the respect you gain is staggering. There's too many of these companies, because they've gone through that startup and upstart phase. Yeah, sure, we'll take it. Yeah, sure, we can do that. No problem, no problem. Then they start scrambling in the background. Nothing more can destroy a brand. Our business is one where we're only as good as what we performed today. If we screw it up, forget what we did the last, 10 years, 3 years, as long as the firm has been around, 5 years. You must perform every day to earn that forgiveness. Because look at BlueVoyant is great, but we make mistakes. Everybody does. So it's not if you make a mistake, it's when you make a mistake. And if you don't put that discipline in place and you're trying to make that next big jump for the big scale, you're going to have a tough time if you can't upsell and cross-sell your existing customers. If the whole thing is chasing new ARR and you're losing stuff out the bottom of the funnel, you're just making mud. You're just churning. And it's very, very difficult. It's really tough on culture too.
Yeah. And one of the things that everyone needs to get right, I guess, at all stages of an organization is, of course, hiring and bringing in the right people into the business
It's a great point.
who
Absolutely.
we we see all the time. You can have an A-star business plan, but if you put B players and C players into it, you're only ever going to receive C results at the end of the day. And we see even through from like an early stage, of course, that first 10, 20 hires has to be on point. But as you continue to grow and grow, the bar just can't slip. One bad hire can take you back 18 months. So
It's
um,
it's unbelievable, isn't it? That's such a great point, Elliot, because we're pretty look being in the upstart phase, we say all the time it's very rare that people are taking vacation. They can go on vacation. We have a policy, take all the vacation you want, but we hire such driven A players that they're always close to the game, and that's not always good. We need people like you need balance, and our folks have really good balance, which is terrific. I preach that, right? You got to have balance because it makes you more effective at your job. But the point is, people that are really good love what they do. They can't turn it off. Like we said beforehand, right? He said, hey, why are you still working? What are you doing this stuff? You've had tons of success. You can't turn it off. That's why. I'll die doing this stuff. I could never sit there and go play golf every day, like I told you, and sit at a bar and drink and lie about a handicap and be some slob. Oh God, how boring. Right? We love getting people that are passionate and hardworking because they love to do what they do. They want to see it work. And like you joked, if BlueVoyant takes off and everybody does a great, is very successful at it, I guarantee you, my teams, they're going to go, hey, what's the next one? What's the next one? Let's go. It's just different, right? You never saw Steve Jobs go, you know what? I've made a ton of money. I think I'm going to go retire. No way, not in the DNA. And so your hires, you want them to have great life balance, but man, they got to love what they got to do. This place is not a job, right? It is what you do, and it's going on all the time. And that cohesivity of that team is critical, really critical. And I'll tell you what, our CEO, Jim Rosenthal, is not shy. If someone is a hire and they're not working out in short order, we adjust. We adjust fast because we realize we're moving quick and everybody be pedaling real hard. I mean, we've built a cheetah. The last thing you want to do is put a leash on it, right?
yeah,
To your point. Yeah, no, no leashes. Thank you. Move on.
yeah. What are the core characteristics would you say make up a BlueVoyant employee at the moment?
I'll tell you, when I look around at like some of the best employees I have, and I say not me, I have, the firm has, they all have a long list of serious discipline, both inside and outside of work. Meaning, that they have a passion for something that requires them to have a discipline, meaning they have to do stuff they don't want to do, right? So go look at someone who loves to do triathlons. Nobody wants to get in that water. It's a pain. You're tired, but you got to train up for it. And they have the discipline to do it. People that I see in their balanced life have that strong discipline and have that strong drive are always successful. The other thing I found, and you're going to really laugh at this, but in sales, we love, there's always the long, arduous discussion of how do you find good salespeople? Because it's really hard to find good salespeople. You're always looking for that group of people that gel and that they're competitive with each other in a good way because they all want to outperform the other person. So I look for people who come from competitive backgrounds. I do not like people who come from brilliant academic backgrounds and walk in and say, don't you know, I went to Harvard. And I go, great, you're out. Because that's not a crack on Harvard, but give me the kid who, went to a 2 or even a 4-year school, paid for college, busted their living tail, and hard work is in their DNA. They never had it handed to them. They don't know any other way. My best people, 2 of them came from 2-year schools and had to put themselves through school, and man alive, they're like, I am going to be successful. And they have a constant appetite to learn. I always say, if I look at my best folks, they're constantly learning, constantly updating their craft. An architect has to do it. A doctor has to do it. Everybody's got to get updated and certified all the time. Countless professionals have to do it. Guess what? If you're going to be at BV and you're going to be in cyber, you have to be constantly honing your craft. You have to learn. You have an appetite for curiosity, and you combine that, right, with a competitive drive. I have some terrific sellers that are ex-women college athletes. That's also been something interesting left, Elliot. These women are sharp as a tack, tough as nails, and man, do they want to win. It's great. That's like a little hidden gem that now you can broadcast to the world. A lot of good success. I mean, these women are great, fantastic.
Oh, amazing, Mike. Yeah, because I did a podcast just before the holidays with Ellen Sundra, who's the Chief Customer Officer of Scout, and she's built an amazing global post-sales team for that business. And I said, how do you maintain like a healthy team, a high-performing team? And she said, the number one thing is everybody has to keep learning. Everybody has to continue to improve. He said, when people stop learning, if they're a high performer, they don't want to be there anymore.
That's right. That's right. And by the way, that's true for your SCs, your sales engineers too. If you're not constantly showing them the new tech and getting them up to speed, think of the nature they come from. They love the technology, right? To get in the details. Well, they don't want to play with a toy that hasn't changed in 5 years. They're like, well, this is boring. I got to go to the new stuff. And off they go. So this is absolutely learning is something that you have to have an appetite for. For example, I love people that love to read. People that love to read and have this like outside curiosity and they're very much into whatever that's always a very good thing as well, right? They're
Yeah.
intellectually thirsty all the time. They're curious. And I love that. Love that.
What would you on a complete digressing tangent here, Mike? What would you say is the most like impactful book that you've read over the last 15, 20 years, if you had to pick one?
Wow. Okay. Well, my favorite book in the entire world, without a doubt, has nothing to do with IT. It's called The Greatest Generation. And it was about, something funny. I'll tie this back, Elliot. I am the youngest of 11 children. So, my parents are World War II parents. My dad was a I mean, parents, I was blessed to have the greatest parents in the world, but he was not a wealthy man, right? But he said, you're going to college, figure it out. So, you just started working. I started as a caddy, then I got promoted to be the shoe shine boy in the locker room. And then I went and got a construction job and you just had to make it happen. My parents gave you the discipline of hard work. It was the greatest blessing ever. It's like, you're going to work hard. That's what you do. And so both my parents, my dad was in World War II. My mom and my dad met at UCLA and got married in 1950. Why do I bring that all up? Because that book, The Greatest Generation, uh, I always recommend people to read it because it will show you what work ethic and what discipline and integrity can do. That generation and what they did for this country. That book is all about the stories. I think it's written by Peter Jennings or I forget, but it is going around and it's interviewing different couples from that generation and hearing their story about what they had to do. And after they got out, how that discipline, what they built and what they did. It is the ultimate book of humility to go, you know what? We're so freaking blessed. These people, my dad would always say to me, Mike, you don't know problems. My father lived to be 96 years old. And he's like, hey, listen, I'd be griping about the business, dad. It was very close to my dad. We always went hunting and fishing all the time. I'd be like, these guys aren't pulling their weight, or I got a problem with this. He'd say, hey, you don't know problems. Keep it in perspective. You do not know problems. Trust me. Okay. So, I mean, I loved the book because it always grounds me. It always keeps me centered to realize that, life is a journey and I don't care how much money you have or how successful you become. We all end up in the same place. And I don't care what kind of car you drive. We are all on the same journey. And it doesn't matter if your perspective is I'm going to be successful because I got all this money. You're an idiot. Okay. It is not the ultimate. You do this business because you have a passion for it. You want to win and you love it. It's the adrenaline. You see your customers go, God, this is great stuff. Finally. And you rejoice in the fact that what you're doing makes a difference to them. It makes a difference. It's not just another tool, right? And there's great gratification in that. And you'll find really good leaders in this business. That's what's motivating them. I'm motivated by my customer going, you guys have built this thing. It's phenomenal. This is really working. This is really cool. Thank you. Because my CFO's not taking my head off anymore. And I look like somebody, most IT people would love to get to the corner oak office, right? And they always want to be around the revenue and they always want to be around the money makers and they want to be part of that little club, and my God, I'm not saying BlueVoyant's the greatest thing ever, but we sure help them get there because finally you have measurement. So I go back to your question of my favorite book. That is without doubt my favorite book because it grounds you and it shows you what hard work will do. And hard work is always the answer. You show me somebody successful, and I will follow it up with hard work. It doesn't have to follow up, well, they're a genius. They went to this school or that school. In fact, most of the time, that's not in the resume. It is for a lot of people, but too many people have what I call, educational hubris, arrogance. They love in the first 10 minutes of the conversation to tell you where they went to college. And I'm always like, oh boy, here we go. Another one of these, right? And no, sir. Tell me about your work ethic, right? You talk about hard people. Let me see the history of what you had to do to get here. In my first job, I worked for a guy, Rick Forsyth, threw the telephone book of Wisconsin at me and said, that's your territory. Good luck. And I would spend countless, countless days driving around the state of Wisconsin, going to all the paper mills saying, hey, you bought an AS400. Can I have 30 minutes to show you why you should lease that from me? You're like, who are you, a kid? What's this? And you just work, 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 work. And that book will make everybody humble when you see just what these people went through and what they built. And when you look at your daily life and your job, you go, damn it, man, I got it pretty good. I can do this.
Yeah.
I don't have problems.
Yeah. Amazing, Mike. No, I'll definitely be adding it to the list. I'll circle back with you in a month and
yeah, you got it. You'll love it. You'll love it. It's incredibly popular. It's a huge book.
Yeah. Well, no, awesome. Well, Mike, I know we're running up towards the end of time now. Like I said, we could have gone for quite a long time there.
Oh, sure. We'll do it again anytime. Happy to do it.
Let's do a 2.0.
That's it. We could go into a million topics. It's good fun.
Awesome. I guess final question that we ask all the guests that come onto the podcast. So if you could go back to Mike Conley, just got out of University of Iowa, 1990, you could give him one piece of advice, what would that be?
If I could go back, I would it's so funny. If I could do one thing, right? If I look at my life and I look at balance and I look at I would definitely put a little bit more balance in it. When I went through Marine Corps OCS, and I did that all during college. And then I went to TBS, and then that was through Iowa, and I was in Quantico, Virginia, and I really loved that. But when I look at all the different factors of my life, I've been very, very blessed. And I'll tell you one thing I would definitely change. I would have gotten married sooner. That may surprise people, but I have 5 kids. And I've been married now for 24 years, and people are like, you got married sooner. Are you crazy? Because I didn't get married till I was, 31. I'm 54 now, and I got married when I was 31. And my kids they're all grown up, except for one guy. I still have one young guy. And I'll tell you what, the time I spend with them is just the greatest thing for my work balance, right? They love the example of seeing their dad work hard. Right? My kids bust their tail. And I always say, if I were to even gotten married even sooner, and what does sooner mean? I don't know, a couple of years with my wife, right? Because we waited. But I just think that brings so much more, that makes you a more interesting person. Maybe that's the way I want to see it. People deal with interesting people. Customers deal with interesting people. They deal with who they like. They don't want to deal with somebody who's, no disrespect, boring as hell. When you can go in there, and especially even when you're selling and you're bringing your goods to the table, most of that time it's all based on relationship. And they want to have a real relationship with people, right? And for the longest time, I went in there and people were like, oh, it's the single guy, lives in Chicago. Hey, what's up? And they all had wives, kids, whatnot. And I missed out on doing that. And I could have done it sooner. So that may not be the answer you're looking for. But for me, I mean, family is really, really important. Powerful, strong family makes me get on a plane and, fly to, Australia and go back and forth, and I'll be there for 3 days, but the meeting is critical and I can do it because I have a support network that is staggering, right? And no matter where I go, hey, Dad, you okay? Everything good? I know you're busting your ass. Good. Excellent. Hey, Graham, it's my son. He's at North Carolina. I'm like, how you doing? We're doing great. It gives you such power, and it makes the world a small place. And to me, that is really, really important. The other thing I would tell you, if I give myself advice, would be you can't always try and win the popularity contest in business, right? When I was very young, I wanted to make everybody perfectly happy. And I think that the lessons you learn is it is very important to have your people respect the heck out of you. You want them to run through walls for you, but you earn that respect, right? You don't sit there and be Mr. Popular and whatnot. And I saw so much of that when I was young. Back then it was selling like, let's go to the golf course, let's have drinks, let's, whatever. That crap. I mean, you still do some of that today, but more than ever, I'm very proud of the fact that my people will run through walls for me because of respect, because they see me busting my tail, right? And I think everybody needs to learn that lesson early. You lead from the front. You don't lead by being in the party and thinking you're everybody else and all that good stuff. You lead from the front. You want to be and gain your people's respect. Doesn't mean you're always going to be the nice guy, but they understand the decision you make and they respect the decision you make because they understand it's what's the best thing for the customer, which means ultimately it's the best thing for the firm. And I wish those lessons, I learned those from a guy named Rick Forsyth, who's the first guy I worked for. Great mentor. And if I said, what could I tell myself earlier, I'd have gotten those lessons in quick.
Yeah, amazing. Well, I think that wraps up. An amazing episode for this week. Mike, absolute pleasure having you on. I'm sure we'll have to do it again.
It was a lot of fun, Elliot. Happy to do it. Thanks for the opportunity.